Almost 100 years ago, South Korea's top hunter, Min Soo, was mysteriously transported to a monster-infested realm. Right after he and his disciples defeated the Demon King on Earth, the only way for him to return to Earth was by defeating a dragon-like monster that contained a core inside its body, a core that could help him teleport back to his home planet. After battling for years, Seo finally takes down the monster, which is all thanks to his legendary healing abilities, and acquires the core for himself. As soon as he gulps the stone down, he is ready to sail back to Earth, ready to reunite with his disciples and little brother. In the next moment, he opens his eyes in a lush green forest. He didn't come back alone. There's this mysterious being occupying him, which lives inside his guts, and its name is Frey. He gets back on his feet, looking around, but he doesn't recognize this place at first glance, which of course surprises Frey. I mean, how does this dude not recognize his own home? That's just weird. But Seo reminds his companion that Earth's landscapes vary depending on the location. He then focuses on the flow of mana around him, and it feels suspiciously similar to being inside a gate. Checking his own mana, he quickly realizes something frustrating. His stats have been nerfed again. It looks like dimensional travel always seems to have side effects. The first time he was sent from Earth to another world 100 years ago, his stats plummeted, and now it seems like the same story. Right now, he only has 20% of his former power, which is beyond frustrating. Even Frey is pissed. He wants Seo to recover as soon as possible. Otherwise, he won't be able to use his awesome skills. But Seo is just as annoyed because regaining his lost strength is going to take at least a decade. Hearing this, Frey straight up wants to cancel their contract. With Seo's current pathetic mana, he's basically useless to him. As they bicker back and forth, the scene cuts to a woman panting heavily as she runs for her life, chased by an orc. She's completely lost track of her teammates and has no clue what to do. More importantly, she has yet to figure out why in the hell there's an orc this early in the dungeon. She suddenly stumbles over her feet and trips, but before the orc can rip her apart, my guy Seo rocks that bastard with a single punch, and the best part is that he doesn't even bother looking in the orc's direction. That's how insignificant the threat is to him. Seo turns to the girl, wanting her to confirm whether the planet they're currently on is Earth. The already spazzed out girl manages to give a positive response, so he follows up with another question, asking if this is Korea, and what year it is. Once again, the girl confirms with a yes, and further clarifies that it's the year 2037. The mention of 2037 gets our boy thinking. He remembers that when he got sucked into that other dimension, it was 2027. If he is thinking right, then 100 years in the demon realm was only 10 years on Earth. Seo then proceeds to ask the name of the current president. The girl responds, saying it's Choy Des Su. This leaves Seo absolutely stunned, because as it turns out, he knows this guy, and judging by his expression, he doesn't seem to remember President Choy Des Su in good terms. As he mumbles all sorts of weird stuff under his breath, the girl starts wondering if this nutcase is just role-playing as a regressor. Seo then turns to her with another question. Since the flow of mana here feels off, he wants to confirm if they are inside a gate. The girl quickly affirms this, and further elaborates that. They're inside the tutorial tower. Seo has never heard of this tutorial tower concept, so the girl proceeds to spill all the details. The tower appeared a few years ago, acting as a gateway for hunters. If you clear it, you awaken your abilities and gain skills, and the higher your awakening rank, the better your privileges, like getting recruited by the most powerful guilds. So naturally, everyone is rushing to clear the tower as soon as possible. Seo clearly remembers that back in his day, the Awakened just got their powers without all this extra crap. From what he understands, all he has to do is clear the tower to get out of here. So he asks her how long that usually takes. The girl explains that on average, it takes about 8 weeks. But if you're skilled enough, you can clear it in at least 6 weeks. The current record holder is a second-generation genius hunter, Ryu Jiwan, who cleared it in just 3 weeks. But my guy is not that amazed or surprised. They suddenly sense the presence of something huge nearby, and soon enough, a giant mutated tiger appears, a creature known as the troll tiger. While the girl panics at the sight of this terrifying beast, Seo is still lost in thought, contemplating the record holder. To him, clearing the tower in 3 weeks isn't impressive at all. It's far too long. But since his own abilities have been nerfed, he's not sure if he can do it any faster either. Meanwhile, the tiger is swishing its tongue around its lips, ready to make a snack out of the duo. Eventually, the tiger lunges at them, But Xiu is still deep in contemplation, thinking about how he'll approach the trial tower. Not wanting his train of thought to be interrupted, he simply punches the giant cat without even moving or looking back at the threat. And that one punch literally breaks the creature's jaw. Finally, Xiu comes to terms with himself and decides that 5 days should be more than enough to clear the tower. 5 days flow by, and the scene then transitions to Minun, the Empire Guild Master. His assistant reports that someone just exited the tutorial tower. Hearing this, Sejun realizes that it's only been 8 weeks since the trial started, so clearing the tower in that time isn't bad at all. But then the assistant reveals something shocking. The person who cleared the tower wasn't on the original entry list. There's no record of their batch and no record of them entering the tower. And now this mystery person is causing quite a commotion outside. When the assistant shows Sejun who the person is, his eyes widen in shock because the face looks oddly familiar. He recognizes him as Hung, his big brother who had disappeared 10 years ago. Now let's shift back to Xiu and the girl accompanying him. The lady is absolutely boggled. She has yet to figure out how on earth this guy cleared the tutorial tower in just 5 days. But the way my guy has smashed this last remaining monster, it's clear how. The system promptly announces that the tutorial is complete. But when it tries to calculate Xiu's skills and stats, it utterly fails. The gate opens, Xiu is ready to walk out in order to start the next chapter of his life. Outside the tutorial tower, he's met by the examiner. People in the crowd can't help but murmur and whisper about Xiu. Then a big guy joins the scene, clearly not vibing with all the commotion. This big guy is said to be the Team 2 leader, and when the examiner takes note of his presence, he rattles out all the details to him. He mentions that 2 people have just cleared the gate, but what's concerning is that one of them wasn't on the entry list. The big guy scans Xiu, and the first thing that stands out is how scratchless he is. It doesn't make sense. Given how scrawny Xiu looks, there's no way he could have gotten away that easily. His curiosity is piqued, so he shoves the examiner aside and decides to interrogate Xiu personally. He starts off by asking who the hell Xiu is and why his name isn't listed in the logs. To this, Xiu casually replies that he didn't go in through the entrance, but the big guy isn't buying it. He argues that if someone enters through the gate, they have to come out the same way. So how in the world did Xiu exit without ever entering? Xiu, however, remains completely nonchalant, refusing to take this oversized jackass seriously. And this attitude is really starting to get under the big guy's skin. Annoyed, he jabs a finger overhead, and straight up calls him a dimwit, convinced that Xiu must have some sort of camouflage skill that let him sneak through undetected. The big guy issues a direct threat. He makes it clear that if Xiu doesn't spill the truth, he's as good as dead. But Xiu keeps that same deadpan expression, which only serves to piss off this loudmouth even more, making him more aggressive and abusive with his words. Unfortunately for him, Xiu doesn't have the patience to listen to some dude yap in his face, especially when said dude's breath smells like literal garbage. So without hesitation, he orders this big pile of garbage to shut his damn mouth. And that does it. The big guy takes the bait, balls up his fat fists, and swings at Xiu. But Xiu remains unfazed. Then the inevitable happens, and it all unfolds right in front of Guildmaster Sejun. Not long after, all the jackasses who dared to mess with Xiu are laid out on the ground. The entire staff is in a frenzy. The guy they had reported for causing a disturbance not only fought the security team, but also disappeared right after. Guildmaster Sejun immediately orders his staff to pull up the CCTV footage. When they do, the recording shows the big guy and his goons charging at Xiu. But in the very next second, Xiu moves so fast that the camera completely fails to capture him. Meanwhile, all 3 of those idiots are knocked out cold. One of the staff members reports that Xiu actually took down 5 hunters before disappearing. Since no one saw him leave, the only logical explanation the staff can come up with is that he must have used stealth abilities. But Sejun disagrees. As far as he can tell, Xiu didn't use any gimmicks. The dude just moved insanely fast. Internally, Sejun is 1000% sure that this is Xiu, his brother, and from what he's seeing, he hasn't changed at all from 10 years ago. He then turns to his staff and issues a direct order. They are to mobilize everyone in the Empire Guild to locate that guy immediately. However, he strictly prohibits them from engaging in any kind of confrontation with this mysterious person. All they need to do is politely introduce themselves and bring him to the office. Sejun wants to meet him personally. As the staff rush to carry out his orders, Sejun still can't wrap his head around where Siu has been all this time, only to suddenly show up now. The way he vanished and reappeared is suspicious. There has to be a solid reason behind it. He's sure that if Seo had been in Korea all these years, he would have come to the Empire Guild multiple times. So now, more than anything, Sejun is curious to learn exactly where he's been. He then shifts his attention to the girl who exited the tutorial tower with Seo. But the poor girl quickly waves it off, claiming that she has no connection with him whatsoever, other than the fact that they just happened to exit together. Sejun believes her. In fact, he's genuinely impressed that she cleared the tower faster than expected. This only means one thing. She must have gained some pretty decent skills. Hearing this, the girl grows flustered and modestly admits that she managed to get an A- rank skill. Well, that's no small achievement. And Sejun is already considering recruiting her into the Empire Guild in advance. So he assures her that the contract terms will be tailored to her liking. All he hopes is that she'll be happy to sign up with them. And of course, the girl couldn't be happier about this opportunity. Without hesitation, she accepts it. Just then, an arrogant bastard steps into the scene. And of course, the first thing he does is throw shade at the Empire Guild's reputation. Sejun immediately recognizes the loudmouth and warns him to watch his tongue. This bastard is none other than Hunter Ryu Jihwan, an S-rank hunter and the guildmaster of the Gumgang Guild. Standing beside him is Seong Choi, another S-rank hunter who manages White Lion Guild. It looks like these two have also caught wind of the unregistered awakened who cleared the tower. Ryu Jihwan is surprised to see that the entire security team got their asses handed to them by just one person. Judging by the pathetic state of these guards, Ryu is certain that the guy must be packing some serious power. Seong Choi shares the same sentiments, and this is exactly why he wants to locate the mysterious awakened as soon as possible. If this guy has awakened a high-grade skill, then he's likely to become a top-tier talent in the future. And neither of these guildmasters plans on letting him slip away. They both want him for themselves. Ryu Jihwan decides to turn it into a challenge. Whoever finds that mysterious awakened first gets to claim him. There are no rules about what kind of shady tactics they can use. Whoever gets to him first keeps him. Seong Choi is totally on board with this plan. Since they'll be searching for that mysterious awakened on their own, neither of them has time to waste. Without further delay, they set off to find the guy, and whoever finds him first has to inform the others. With that, Ryu Jihwan heads off, but not without throwing a jab, claiming he'll be the one to find the awakened, so there's no need for the others to even bother struggling. But Sejun isn't so sure he's going to let that happen anyway. Ryu Jihwan walks away and orders his assistant, Jinich, to gather all the C and D rankers from Gumgang's Team A and deploy them for the search. But Jinich seems unsure who exactly they're looking for. In response, Ryu Jihwan casually drops the bomb. It's Sejun's brother. Meanwhile, Seo is in his favorite restaurant, munching down on fried chicken. Frey is absolutely boggled. Out of all the things Seo could be doing after returning to Earth 100 years later, he chooses to devour some fried birds. After his chicken spree, he starts wandering the streets, which once again piques Frey's curiosity. He can't help but ask where Seo's headed. Seo doesn't bother explaining. He figures it's obvious. Of course he's going home. When he finally arrives, stepping into his humble home, nostalgia hits him hard. He remembers rushing inside at dinner time, his mother preparing a meal while his father reads the newspaper. But all those moments are lost in the past now. His home is nothing more than a rundown shell, empty and abandoned. He still can't remember his parents' faces. They say forgetting is a gift from God, but for him, it was a curse. He spent 100 years in the demon realm, an endless bloodbath on a strange, brutal planet, the dulling of human senses, the stopping of time, the weathering of the self. For what felt like an eternity, the curse of oblivion threatened to erase him. So he desperately clung to his memories, his younger siblings, his disciples, memories that refused to become mere reminiscence. Instead, they turned into obsession, a lingering attachment. But that was okay. Thanks to that, he survived for 100 years. Even Frey takes note of how this place feels like a ghost town, colder than the demon realm itself. Sue only came here to reminisce. Now that he's seen everything, it's time to move on. He decides to look for the neighborhood kids he used to hang out with. But first on the list is his brother, Sejun. He wants to meet him. But his plan to reconnect with old friends hits a snag when a gang of thugs, fully armed, surrounds him from all directions. The bastard with red hair seems to be leading the gang. He introduces himself as Beyond Hakum, an SE rank hunter from the Vadra Guild. Su remains calm and completely unbothered by the status of these lowlives. He's not in the mood for a skirmish either. Hakum feels mocked and reminds him again of his guild's name. But once again, my guy stays nonchalant because he does not give a single care. They keep exchanging jabs, with Su effortlessly countering each one with an even sharper retort. This just gets under Hakum's skin, and his patience continues to wear thin. Fully aggravated, he finally decides to teach Seo the lesson he deserves. The next moment, Hakum throws a punch. A devastating blow that sends Seo crashing backward, slamming into the wall behind him. Hakum and his lackeys feel thoroughly satisfied, thinking they finally shut Seo up. But my guy is literally the calmest person ever, just lying there like a cool cucumber in a refrigerator. The fools assume he must have fainted from that single blow, since he's not getting back up. Then, a system window flashes before Seo's eyes, explaining the ability Hakum just used. Apparently, it's a skill called Lightning Flash, a CGR skill that grants instantaneous acceleration, making your body's speed more than double. You can move way faster as long as your body can handle the friction. The skill isn't bad at all, so Seo casually asks Frey if he wants to eat it. Since this is the first skill Frey is about to consume after returning to Earth, he doesn't mind giving it a try. So my guy simply stands back up on his feet. Then, without warning, he dashes toward Hakum and delivers a devastating slap, so powerful that it literally sends Hakum slamming into the ground hard enough to shatter it. The goons who were cackling like hyenas just moments ago now stand in absolute terror. Su then extends his hand, giving Frey the opportunity to devour the skill from this bastard. Soon enough, a dark magic circle forms beneath their feet. Within seconds, the skill extraction is complete. While it feels good to finally chomp down on a skill after so long, Frey can't deny the fact that it tastes way worse than the chicken they had earlier. Meanwhile, Hakum, now with his pride in shambles, calls for his minions to attack Seo all at once. Like a bunch of reckless idiots, they charge at him, actually believing they stand a chance. Seo just tells Frey to put their newly acquired skill to use. The moment Frey complies, my guy explodes into motion, dashing with godlike speed and taking down every last one of these fools like they're nothing more than mosquitoes. One of the bastards dashes towards Seo, attempting to strike him with a skill. But Seo easily renders the bastard's attack futile by smashing his knee into the guy's gut, causing him to cough up blood. The bastard was using a vital point strike, a technique that automatically targets an opponent's weak spots. Since this bastard clearly can't make proper use of the skill, Seo decides to borrow it for himself. But before things escalate into everyone's demise, Soon arrives on the scene. The moment Seo looks back at Soon, he notices the reflection of his brother in his eyes, and the once heated battlefield transforms into a sweet reunion of two brothers. Now, to understand what happened, let's rewind 20 years to when the gates first appeared on Earth. It goes without saying that these gates unleashed chaos and destruction, bringing monsters into the world. This was also when the first generation of awakened individuals emerged, their powers awakening as the gates appeared. There were no police, no laws to handle the situation. It was an era of barbarism where everyone was inexperienced. In this chaotic world, Seo and his little brother Sejun, who lost their parents early, had to survive by any means necessary. Seo was the first generation awakened. He dropped out of school to become a hunter and raise his helpless little brother, who was still just an infant at the time. And so Seo, the caring brother that he was, took care of Sejun during those dark times. In the present, Seo follows his brother to their new home, where everything looks lavish. Sejun is totally smitten by the place, and wonders if his brother took out a loan or earned everything on his own. But Seo claims that the money came from skills he learned from his older brother. Since it's a house they're both supposed to live in, there's also a room for Seo. Internally, Seo can't believe the person in front of him is the same brother who disappeared nearly 10 years ago. Seo keeps talking non-stop, feeling happy that he'll be able to raise his little brother again. He can see how much his little brother has worked hard, and that makes him feel incredibly grateful. Seeing Seo jabber on so much, Sejun has no doubt this is indeed his real brother. Sejun then brings up how he's been searching so hard for his older brother. He wants to know everything. Where did he go? Why did he go? And why did he choose this time to show up after all this time? Well, SEU has a lot to say, 100 years worth of adventures. But that's a story that can only be told if the two of them sit down for a heart-to-heart. So later, we see them sitting together as Seo explains everything that happened. In summary, 10 years ago, After SEU defeated the fourth Demon Lord, he was transported to another dimension by an artifact the Demon Lord had. In this other world, he met Predator, a being who could extract other people's skills. For 100 years, he grew with that ability, seeking out dragons with dimensional magic. Once he defeated the Dragon King and obtained the dimensional orb that Dragon carried, he was finally able to return home. And his friend Predator, who is also known as Frey, crossed over to Earth with him and is now inside his body. This revelation about Frey living inside Sio's body creeps the hell out of Sejun. It only gets worse when SEU casually reveals that Frey is basically a parasite living in his gut. Seo admits that this whole lore dump probably sounds like absolute nonsense, but he promises his younger brother that he's not tweaking anything. Well, it goes without saying that Sejun trusts his brother. Given how much the world has drastically changed over the past 2 decades, he's not even surprised by this story, no matter how absurd it sounds. Right now he's just glad his brother is back. Now that Seo has come clean about himself, he wants his little brother to do the same. Fill him in on everything he missed over the past 10 years. He especially wants to know what the hell happened in this country that allowed a guy like Choy Des Su to become president. Since SEU disappeared, Choy Des Su blatantly took credit for the defeat of the fourth Demon King. With the title of the greatest hunter of the first generation, and his fabricated reputation, he managed to ascend to the presidency. Now he keeps making policies that work against the Empire Guild. But now that SEU is back, Sejun is concerned about what that zesty ass might try to do to his brother. But SEU is not worried at all. In fact, he finds it downright laughable that someone as incompetent as Choy Des Su managed to fool everyone with his fake double S rank title. Speaking of Choy, Shu suddenly remembers the guys who attacked him at their house earlier. The leader of that gang claimed to be from the Goom Gang Guild, so SEU wants to know if they're Choy Des's lackeys. To that, his younger brother responds with a firm no, because the guild Choy Des Su runs is called Infinite. There are 7 representative guilds in South Korea, collectively known as the Heptagram. The guild Seun runs, Empire, is one of them. The others are Infinite, Vajra, White Lion, Fighting Warrior, Azure Flower, and Frozen Soul. Among them, Vajra belongs to a second-generation hunter, Ryu Jian. Just the name of this bastard is enough to set Sejun's blood boiling. To think that Snake is after his senior brother, who just returned home after 10 years. SEU then asks his brother about the disciples, the ones who always stood by his side. To that, Sejun explains that they've been living apart for a while, so they haven't connected with each other recently. Xiaolong went back home, and Kang Yoa is under Choy Des's control. Well, SEU wasn't expecting to hear that, but he's hoping Moon is still around. But contrary to what he thought, his junior brother drops the grim news that Moon was killed, which absolutely stuns our boy. He doesn't waste any time and interrogates his brother about who killed him. Shun explains that Moon's body disappeared, so they couldn't figure out who the culprit was. The only ones who could kill a hunter are other hunters, or unregistered awakened individuals. At that time, HMCS even participated in the investigation, but there was no progress. Seo starts feeling dazed as he hears one brutal truth bomb after another. He then asks, "What's the deal with HMCS?" To which his brother explains that HMCS is essentially the Hunter Special Investigation Unit, an international agency that operates at the front lines of hunter-related crime. HMCS has the authority to investigate and arrest all awakened criminals, so they're basically like the Hunter Police. SEU seems quite intrigued by this new faction, so he curiously asks his brother if he has any ties to the agency. Sejun quickly catches on to what his senior brother is implying, and can tell that he wants to join HMCS. If it's an investigation you want to do, then Sejun is willing to lend his own guild's information team, as they don't have to involve themselves with HMCS. But Seo has other plans beyond just gathering information. His brother once again reminds him that those guys handle cases like murder, so going there is not the best option for him right now. He wants his brother to rest first, and once he's fully recovered, he can start thinking about what to do next. This is when Seo reminds his junior that he spent 100 years fighting in that other world, so he's done all the shady stuff you can think of. He doesn't believe he lacks any experience in any field. Well, it looks like Sejun has run out of arguments, so he has no choice but to concede to his senior brother's demands. Eventually, he decides to hook his brother up with a guy named Yi Yi from Frozen Soul, who is a manager in that hunter agency. Seo is happy to hear this and is looking forward to it. Sejun takes note of how Su's face is the same, but the atmosphere around him has changed. This makes Shun curious about what could have happened in that old world to cause him to change so drastically. Meanwhile, our boy is busy digging about HMCS, and this is when he is hit by a twist. The team leader of HMCS's Gangbuk district team is Hang Jianggu, a 1.5 generation hunter, and as it turns out, Seo knows this guy like the back of his hand. 2 days later, we find ourselves at the HMCS headquarters in Gangbuk district. Inside, a ponytailed man is throwing a tantrum. He seems irritated that once again someone from higher up has sent a rookie to join his team. And since he's the team leader, it naturally annoys him to have yet another rookie under his command. This guy, as you might have already guessed, is Jianggu. He reminisces about the old days when battlefields were unpredictable and strength was all that mattered. Back then, hunters wrote wills before heading into missions, fully aware they might not return. He also recalls how about 10 years ago, he almost died in a raid. It happened because he was still a rookie, and the wound he suffered was fatal. Had he died, the party would have lost its biggest powerhouse. But it was a single healer, with incredible abilities, who saved him. And well, we all know who that healer was. That very healer has just made his grand entrance into the office. Su calls out to his old friend, addressing him by his previous name Bong, and immediately questions why the hell he changed it. To jog Bu's memory, he reminds him that he's the very guy with those insane healing abilities who saved his life back then. It doesn't take long for Bu to recognize him, and when he does, he's absolutely floored. Seeing Hunterman Su standing before him, gracing their office with his presence, is the last thing he expected.